Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Dr.Sreenivas Medical Concepts and my FB page Dr. Sreenivas Concepts. This is Dr. Sreenivas, neurologist from Andhra Pradesh, India. I am also the medical author of the book Focused Neurology. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting clinical topic, the localization of intracerebral hemorrhage by ocular signs. So very fascinating clinical concepts, localization of intracerebral hemorrhage by just looking at the ocular signs. So this is a very much clinically oriented topic, especially useful for medical students. Intracranial hemorrhage accounts for about 10% of all strokes. So intracranial hemorrhage accounts for 10% of all strokes. The hypertensive intracerebral hemorrhage usually results from spontaneous rupture of small penetrating arteries deep in the brain. So hypertensive intracerebral hemorrhage usually results from the rupture of small penetrating artery deep in the brain. So what are the common sites of hypertensive hemorrhage? The most common sites of hypertensive hemorrhage are the basal ganglia, especially putamen. In fact, putamen is the most common site of hypertensive hemorrhage. One of the favorite exam questions. What is the most common site of hypertensive hemorrhage? The answer should be putamen. The question may be the other way around. What are the common sites of hypertensive hemorrhage? In that case, the answer should be putamen, the most common site, followed by thalamus, cerebellum and pons. So these are the four most common sites of hypertensive hemorrhage: putamen, thalamus, cerebellum and pons. And if you find hemorrhage in these areas, it is usually due to hypertensive bleed. But if you find bleed other than these four areas, you have to think of other causes other than hypertension. So hypertension induced hemorrhage are most common in putamen, the most common site, thalamus, pons and cerebellum. Why we see hypertensive hemorrhage in these four areas? The small arteries in these areas seem most prone to hypertension induced vascular injury. So the arteries seen in these areas seem to be most prone. These are small arteries. So the small arteries seen in these areas seem to be most prone to hypertension induced vascular injury. Because these small arteries are more prone to hypertension, are most prone to hypertension induced vascular injury, we find hypertensive bleed in these four sites: putamen, pons, thalamus and cerebellum. Fine, we know that these are the four common sites of hypertensive bleed, namely putamen, pons, thalamus and cerebellum. Of these four sites, the putamen is the commonest site of hypertensive bleed. Very important point, right? Now we know that these are the four common sites of hypertensive bleed. Now, by just looking at the eye, can we make a diagnosis of these hemorrhages, hypertensive hemorrhages, whether it is putamen hemorrhage, pontine hemorrhage, thalamic hemorrhage or cerebellar hemorrhage, by just looking at the ocular signs? So very interesting, thrilling concepts. Just looking at the eye signs clinically without imaging, you can make the diagnosis of the site of hypertensive bleed. So what are the eye signs which will clinch the diagnosis? First we'll see the putamen hemorrhage. Imagine a person has got left putamen hemorrhage. How will the eye signs appear? We know that putamen is a basal ganglia structure, a subcortical structure, and hence close to the frontal lobe. We all know the saccadic pathway. The saccadic pathway originates from the frontal eye fields area number 8, descends in the internal capsule, midbrain. At the rostral part of the pons, it crosses over to the opposite side and goes to the PPRF, paramedian pontine reticular formation. So imagine I need to look to the right side. So to look to the right side, the saccadic pathway originates from the left frontal eye fields area number 8, descends in the subcortical area, internal capsule, midbrain pons and goes to the PPRF on the opposite side. So the PPRF on the right side connects to the right lateral rectus and through the MLF to the medial rectus on the left side. And therefore, when my left frontal lobe or subcortical structures are stimulated, the eyes will look towards the opposite side. These are known as saccadic eye movements. Otherwise, fast reflexive movements. I look at the camera, suddenly someone calls me on the right side, I immediately turn to the right. These quick, fast movements are known as saccadic movements. The slow following movements, like as if you are observing a shuttlecock going from one side to the other side, is known as pursuit movements. They originate from the parietal lobe and they also go to the PPRF. But right now we are concerned with the saccadic movements. So when the left putamen is affected, putamenal hemorrhage, the saccadic pathway gets affected, and therefore when the left putamen hemorrhage is there, when the left putamen gets affected, the eyes cannot be turned to the right side, so eyes will be looking to the same side of the lesion. And since internal capsule is also close by, the hemiplegia will be on the opposite side. So eyes looking to one side and hemiplegia on the opposite side, that is putamen hemorrhage. So if the eyes are looking to one side, it is a putamen hemorrhage. Hypertensive bleed, it is a putamen bleed. So the eyes are deviated to the side opposite the paralysis. That means to the side of the lesion. The eyes are deviated to the side opposite the paralysis. So left putamen hemorrhage means eyes are deviated to the left side and paralysis on the right side. So eyes are deviated towards the side opposite the paralysis. That means putamen hemorrhage. So by just looking at the ocular signs, you can make the diagnosis. This is putamen hemorrhage. Now next comes thalamic hemorrhage. So how can we diagnose thalamic hemorrhage? Just by looking at the eyes clinically. Thalamus is just above the midbrain. Thalamus is just above the midbrain. So when there is thalamic hemorrhage, it will go and impinge on the top of the midbrain, that rostral portion of the midbrain. The midbrain contains the eye center for vertical movements, vertical eye movement center. The pons, as I said earlier in putamen hemorrhage, the PPRF is the center for all horizontal eye movements. The midbrain is center for vertical eye movements. In the vertical eye movements also, we have up gaze and then we have down gaze. The up gaze cross in the top of the midbrain and then descend down, whereas the down gaze fibers descend straight away down. The up gaze fibers cross in the midbrain to the opposite side and then descend, whereas down gaze fibers descend straight away. So when there is a thalamic hemorrhage, it will go and impinge on the top of the midbrain, so it will impinge on the crossing up gaze fibers, and therefore in thalamic hemorrhage, patient cannot look upwards. The up gaze fibers are affected, so persons will be looking downwards. So if you see a person looking downwards, that is suggestive of thalamic hemorrhage. Another important clinical point in thalamic hemorrhage is that the hypothalamus starts just underneath the thalamus. The sympathetic pathway originates from the hypothalamus. Sympathetic causes dilatation of the pupil. So when the sympathetic pathways are affected, there will be small pupils. So in thalamic hemorrhage, the sympathetic pathways which emerge from the hypothalamus are also affected, and therefore the pupils will be small. So fantastic concepts. The eyes are looking downwards because the gaze fibers are affected, and the small pupils are present because the hypothalamic sympathetic pathways are affected. That is thalamic hemorrhage. So in putamen hemorrhage, the eyes look towards the side of the lesion and hemiplegia on the opposite side. In thalamic hemorrhage, eyes are looking downwards and the pupils are small. Right. Now we will come to the next hypertensive bleed, pontine hemorrhage. Here, to understand pontine hemorrhage, we need to understand one important concept in pontine hemorrhage: the blood supply. The brainstem structures are the midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is supplied by two arteries, the two vertebral arteries. So medulla oblongata is supplied by two vertebral arteries. But when it comes to pons, they unite to become a single artery known as basilar artery. Then when it comes to the midbrain, again they diverge and become two posterior cerebral arteries. So midbrain is supplied by two arteries, that is two posterior cerebral arteries. Medulla oblongata is also supplied by two arteries, that is two vertebral arteries. Whereas pons is supplied by a single artery, basilar artery. And therefore, when there is a rupture of the basilar artery causing pontine hemorrhage, single artery, it's a single artery, so it ruptures and spreads to both sides. We have the sympathetic pathways coming from the hypothalamus, both two sympathetic tracts coming from the midbrain, from the hypothalamus running the midbrain, pons and medulla. So when the pontine hemorrhage, the basilar artery ruptures, it spreads bilaterally and affects both the sympathetic tracts. Sympathetic tract is responsible for the dilatation of the pupil, and hence when both the sympathetic pathways get affected, it's like bilateral Horner's syndrome. So both the pupils will become small. So fantastic. All these concepts are awesome concepts. When we see and diagnose clinically and then confirm it with imaging, that's really awesome. You'll get a very satisfying feeling. So pontine hemorrhage, bilateral small pinpoint pupils. That is pontine hemorrhage. Next is cerebellum, cerebellar hemorrhage. To understand cerebellar hemorrhage and ocular eye signs, again we need to understand one important concept: vestibulo-ocular reflex, VOR. Imagine my right vestibular apparatus. When my right vestibular apparatus is stimulated, for example by turning to the right side, the vestibular apparatus connects with the third nerve on the same side and the sixth nerve on the opposite side and pushes the eyes towards the opposite side. So when my right vestibular apparatus is stimulated, the doll's eye movement or oculocephalic reflex will push the eyes towards the opposite side. So when my right vestibular apparatus gets affected, eyes will move towards the same side. So why I am talking about VOR when I am trying to address the issue of cerebellar hemorrhage? Because cerebellum inhibits the VOR. Cerebellum inhibits the VOR. So when the right vestibular apparatus is stimulated, the eyes will move towards the opposite side, and when it gets affected, the eyes will move towards the same side. Now the cerebellum inhibits it. So VOR will stimulate the eyes to move to the opposite side. Since cerebellum is inhibiting this VOR, eyes will move towards the same side. And therefore, when there is cerebellar hemorrhage, when the cerebellum has become dysfunctional, eyes will move towards the opposite side. So it is just the opposite of VOR. So right vestibular ocular reflex, the eyes will move towards the opposite side, but when it gets affected, eyes will move towards the same side. Cerebellum inhibits VOR, so when cerebellum is functioning well, it inhibits VOR, so eyes will move to the same side of the cerebellum. For example, right cerebellum, when it is stimulated, eyes will move to the same side. So when the cerebellum has become dysfunctional like cerebellar hemorrhage, eyes will move towards the opposite side. So cerebellar manifestations are just the opposite of VOR. So when there is cerebellar hemorrhage, eyes will move towards the opposite side. So in cerebellar hemorrhage, the eyes may be deviated laterally to the side opposite the lesion. So these are all the fantastic, fabulous, awesome concepts. Today I've just discussed a very important clinically oriented point. So by just looking at the ocular signs, you can clinch the diagnosis of intracranial hemorrhage, whether it is putamen hemorrhage, pontine hemorrhage, thalamic hemorrhage or cerebellar hemorrhage. That is the beauty of neurology. Just looking at clinically, just looking at the patient's eye signs, you can make the diagnosis without any investigation. You can later confirm with the investigation, and once you have confirmed it, you will have an amazing, awesome, satisfying experience. So this is the topic, a clinically oriented topic, the localization of intracerebral hemorrhage by ocular signs. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my lecture as much as I have enjoyed delivering it. If you have any suggestions, comments, feedback, please feel free to put it on my YouTube channel, or please like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Dr. Sreenivas Medical Concepts, and my FB page, Dr. Sreenivas Concepts. Thank you. Bye.